Hello and welcome to the EU AI Act podcast, your go-to resource for understanding the European Union's legislation on artificial intelligence. I'm your host, Mark Kelly, and I'll be your guide through this intricate landscape of AI regulations that could shape the future of technology in Europe and beyond. In each episode, we'll delve into the EU AI Act, exploring its purpose, implications, and the roles of those involved. From AI developers to deployers, our mission is to demystify how this groundbreaking regulation impacts everything from high-risk AI systems to everyday applications that influence both the physical and virtual realms. Whether you're a developer, deployer, or simply curious about the future AI, this podcast will equip you with the insights and knowledge needed to navigate the ever-evolving world of AI regulations. Stay tuned as we explore these topics and more, helping you to stay informed and ahead in the rapidly changing field of artificial intelligence. Don't forget to subscribe to the EU AI Act podcast on your favourite streaming platform to never miss an episode. Hello everyone, it's Mark Kelly here. You're very, very welcome to the EU AI Act podcast. And today we are speaking with Josianne Cutajar. And Josianne is a member of the European Parliament and also a lawyer by profession. Josianne, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast today.
You're welcome, Mark. It's my pleasure being here today to discuss also about AI developments at EU level.
So we are going to talk a little bit about that in detail, but it'd be lovely just to hear about your journey into the world of law and also how you became an MEP. If you wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about how that came about.
Yes, so I went into law first before going into politics because I believe that I always had this strong sense of duty towards improving society and helping the most vulnerable. And it was the social aspect of mine which brought me to study the law at the University of Malta. I followed a degree in law there and later also did a master's in European and comparative law because I also understood the importance of understanding EU legislation, which is part and parcel, obviously, nowadays in the member states' legal systems. So I went into law and eventually into politics to get the tools to help others. It was the social aspect which pushed me into it, and my legal background helped me a lot when I was elected as an MEP. I really believe that the European Union should be given even more attention, even at national level and by the national governments and national constituencies, because sometimes constituencies tend to focus a lot on what's happening nationally, but being a member state within the European Parliament has a lot of opportunities, but also obligations. So it's key to have also representatives who are representing each member state and doing important work reflecting EU values, whilst at the same time bringing forward also the aspects reflecting the societies at national and regional level.
I think it's so important to hear your why, because when you do work like this, and I can only imagine the amount of effort that goes into the EU AI Act, weekends, late nights, early mornings, that why has to be so important to you to keep you going for that discretionary effort.
Definitely, yes, the why is key in everything that we do. Sometimes there are people working on the same piece of legislation, but with different perspectives, backgrounds, but also aims. So it's key, yes, to explore this aspect.
Tell us a little bit about the EU AI Act. Tell us about the kind of the main points of it from your understanding, and what part did you play in it?
Yes, so as most of us know, or those of us who are following AI developments, it is a historic legislation that has been enacted. And it's definitely key that we try and understand what this legislation means to all of us. And my role within this field was that I was contributing towards this legislation as the rapporteur for the Transport and Tourism Committee. And to explain a bit to our audience, those who might not know well how the EU policymaking works, the European Commission comes up with a legislative proposal, and then the European Parliament and the Council, where the ministers sit, give their position on this proposal. We put forward amendments in the case of Parliament to amend what the Commission has put forward and to try to strengthen it to be more effective. And an important aspect is to understand that there's one responsible committee. There are several committees within the European Parliament. I, for example, sit on the Transport and Tourism Committee, amongst others. And the Transport and Tourism Committee had the obligation and the role to give an opinion towards the main committee responsible for this legislation from the transport and tourism side of things. And here I wanted to give just one example of how important it is that the Transport Committee was playing an important role towards this legislation. The fact is that, as we all know, let's speak of cars, which all of us use, but also other vehicles. They are becoming more and more autonomous. And we have AI systems embedded within our cars, for example, and these will be developed even further. The thing is that there are risks related to artificial intelligence as there are relating to any other new technology. And we felt that it was key, in line with European Union values, and also to protect customers, but also to provide a competitive environment to our businesses and SMEs to regulate the use of AI. So even within this act, there are important aspects, and I wanted to mention here one example, that the uses of AI are regulated in line with their risk. So the higher the risk, the higher the obligations, the more rigorous the impact assessments that need to be done. And this reflecting the aspect also and the legal principle that it's also important and always important to regulate in a proportionate manner. And that's how we tackled it within this act, to look at the different risks, the high level and medium, and then there are some aspects and some uses which are totally banned. And in this way, we can give a regulatory environment which still, however, puts forward legal rules which give some clarity to consumers, but also to businesses.
It's such an embryonic stage, and
Yes.
we've had some kind of important kind of announcements over the last couple of days as well. And I believe we've got less than now 20 days before it gets properly signed in. And then we've got a kind of 6 months for prohibitive AI to be wound down. Companies are now getting the final text, and they're now, it's starting to become kind of real for them. What advice would you offer some of these, I don't know, in-house lawyers or, the compliance teams or privacy officers that are going to be kind of managing this? And, again, EU AI office is getting kind of formatted in terms of hired for and all these different types of things. So a lot of things happening in the mix. What advice would you offer to people there?
Definitely, it's important that they look at the implementing stages. As you mentioned, there are, although the law has come into effect, but its implementation, it's staged. And this also to give some breathing space on how to implement this legislation also to our businesses and beyond. Definitely, it's important to familiarize themselves with the AI Act. I know that not everything is clear there, because as we know, AI is also the developments are fast and it's quite dynamic. So we need to keep an eye, and there are also review clauses within the legislation. So eventually there might be even amendments in this regard, and the Commission also could put forward other acts. We have implementing and delegated acts on the more technical level. So it's not cast in stone, definitely. But as a starter, it's important. I advise that they have a thorough look at the different obligations there, but also at the different opportunities. Let's say, for example, SMEs and startups are given priority access when it comes to regulatory sandboxes. And this is an aspect that I too pushed forward in the opinion that I worked upon as rapporteur for the Transport Committee, and it made it into the final legislation too. But I would also suggest that they do not only look at the legislation itself, obviously. First of all, as you mentioned, Mark, there's the AI office, which has been recently set up. And this will help when it comes also to the effective implementation. So I also have my eyes on the AI office to provide some guidance on the proper implementation of the AI obligations. So that is definitely key, and I believe it will be of help. Then there's also the AI Pact, which has been released, which incentivizes also our stakeholders and businesses to even implement the AI aspects and obligations even earlier. And this because we believe that when it comes to safer AI and more ethical AI, this will give also more consumer trust. It will enhance consumer trust in AI uses and AI technologies being embedded within the different devices, the different vehicles, etc. So this would also help give a more stable business environment. And then there's also other aspects. So I'll mention here the AI innovation package. This is also important even for our SMEs and startups, because this innovation package is helping a lot to ensure that we balance out. We know that a lot of obligations are coming into effect, but we need and we want as a European Union to help. Also, AI uptake and innovation. Innovation is key. Whether we speak, for example, of medicine, where there is more precision when it comes to AI use, even within our medical devices, and this could help in this regard. And another one last piece of advice that I wanted to mention is that we keep in mind when it comes to the human-centric approach that this AI Act is taking. So it's important, yes, when different professionals advise their clients to always keep in mind this human-centric approach, this transparent approach, this ethical approach, which also is being guided by this AI Act.
Yeah, so thank you very much. Very comprehensive answers. So we're seeing that as it's rolled out over the next kind of 18 months or so, companies will have the opportunity to, as you said, small businesses have kind of prioritization for the sandboxes where they can kind of show and tell how they're using AI, what their strategies are around that or in terms of implementation. But gone are the days of where you can kind of grade your own homework. You need to be able to have a kind of an audit log that if you're audited by someone in the office to clearly show how your AI makes decisions, it's transparent, it's not infringing on the rights, and that it's consistent. And this way, you've got that privacy by design, that human-centric approach where people trust it, and then organizations can show the benefits of their product or services. What happens if companies start to not listen to this or get it wrong? There's pretty steep fines and even the opportunity to never work, not opportunity, but never to sell your product or service in Europe again on the more kind of extreme level.
Yes, definitely. The fines and obligations are there. So yes, it's important that there'll be proper attention to the incoming digital obligations. And here I would like to take it on a more generic level and general level, because let's keep in mind that the European Union is implementing, and there are a lot of a plethora of different digital legislation coming into effect when it comes to the digital field. And it's important that we'll have experts who would really understand this legislation, these different types of legislation, and give advice to their clients in the wider sense, because there is a lot of other legislation coming into effect. I'll mention here briefly the Digital Markets Act, the Digital Services Act. We've also worked at the end of this mandate on some important cybersecurity legislation. For example, I was the rapporteur for the Managed Security Services legislation. And here, to explain in simple words for those who might not be technical or know well about these services, it's important that we have the certification of services being offered to smaller market actors who do not have in-house expertise, and who will have their mind at rest that if they resort to these cybersecurity managed security services, they will also have quality services afforded and given to them. Because there's a lot of digital legislation and developments happening, and I understand well that not all businesses, not all public authorities, not all NGOs might have the knowledge for this, but it's important to tap into EU funds, into EU assistance that is being provided to ensure that not only our stakeholders honor the obligations, but also to tap into the opportunities that there are, because there's a lot of opportunities for our startups, SMEs, scale-ups, and other businesses to develop innovative technologies, also through the use of AI, to tackle some of the needs of our markets.
And when you think about that innovation regulation delicate dance that a lot of people want to get right, and it's very hard to get everybody on the same page. Everyone's going to have a difference of opinion, and you've got a variety of different countries and geographies that have got different ethics, different values, different perspectives. Do you believe we'll get to that harmonization where you'll start to have a more consistency around regulation for AI, cyber, all kind of coming together under that kind of one kind of banner?
You mean on an EU level or on a more international level too, across?
Yeah, I would mean more an international level.
More
I'm
on
going
an
to work on the
international
basis
level.
that we'll get the EU level, but on the
Yes.
there's more kind of that more
Yes.
global level, kind of. And again, I know it's not a true analogy because AI is so much more different, but it's kind of like that kind of that plug where you're plugging it in. You know that it's going to be safe to be approved. You can use it in
Yes.
majority of areas. That kind of goal.
Thank you for the question. And I printed, before coming into this podcast, some of the recent news, which also shows trends towards more international cooperation. And I really believe that international cooperation in this field is key. As we know, digitalization and risks of AI know no borders. So we need to cooperate also beyond the European Union. It's great that we have this historic legislation, and I believe it would serve as a reference to different continents and different actors across the world, but definitely we need to work hand in hand globally. So, for example, it was even reported a few days ago that the Council of Europe has adopted a human rights AI treaty. So that's one, it's more on a European level still, but it's still beyond the European Union. But also global leaders were also meeting to pledge further work on AI safety and inclusion also on Tuesday. So this is also important. And here different leaders were coming together also beyond the European Union. So there were countries which are not within the EU discussing on how we can work on a global level. And there was a study done by OECD on different legislative frameworks and developments in different countries. And it is very interesting because as a common denominator, there are also some similarities. So there are similarities, for example, when it comes to developing more ethical AI or more transparent AI. And an advice I would give is that we should look at these commonalities, at common aspects that we're trying to regulate in one way or another. Some are doing it with in softer means than hardcore legislation with obligations and fines, and others are doing it in a more hardcore manner. But let's look at what unites us, at the common challenges that we have, and let's discuss on how we can foster more international cooperation.
Yeah, and I think because we're all facing the similar challenges to some extent, so broadening that, but I'm already seeing how the FTC in the US are taking pieces from Europe, from APAC, then kind of passing it over. So there is that kind of constant communication, and I feel that's probably the best way, because a lot of the companies that are using AI, it's from a global reach, right? So it's their users of millions of users across the board. Josianne, thank you very much for your time today. It was fantastic getting your insights and give us a little bit more detail about the EU AI Act and some of the support measures for small, medium enterprises. And yeah, it's a very, very exciting time. And thanks again.
Thank you very much, and good luck with the rest of the series. And thanks for giving this opportunity to explain further on this important topic.
If you're as passionate about the intersection of AI and regulation as we are, then you'll want to dive deeper. That's why I'm excited to introduce the EU AI Act online course. This comprehensive course is designed to arm you with a thorough understanding of the EU AI Act and its implications across industries. Whether you're an attorney, a compliance officer, a developer, an executive, or a regulator, this course is everything you need to navigate the complexities of AI regulations. Over 3 hours of on-demand video and 6 detailed articles await, all accessible forever on any device, be it your phone, tablet or TV. Enroll today to secure unlimited access and take the first steps towards mastering the intricacies of AI regulation. Just visit courses-ai.com to get started and stay ahead of the curve and understand the impact and lead with confidence in the age of AI. Don't miss out, your deep dive into the EU AI Act starts here.